All right, welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded. Following a series win, 3 games in a 4-game set, the Yankees won 5-2 this time around, powered by the bats of Gleyber, Torres, and Aaron Judge, who seems to be back or close to back where he was. So we're going to talk about that. Before we do, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow us on our socials posted below, as well as at Yankees Unloaded. And just, of course, want to make mention, if you want to listen to this on just audio podcast format, you can do so. Link is in the description, or you can check us out just by searching us on wherever you get your podcasts. In addition to that, you can also join our Discord server, which is essentially a Yankees 24/7 live chat. A lot of Yankee fans out there. We're over 60 on there. Members wise. So be sure to check that out. And last but not least, if you want to become a member and help out the channel further and have access to exclusive perks such as priority comments, and in addition to that, of course, mailbag, all you got to do is hit the join button or hit the link in the description or comment section below. That was a lot, but I remembered everything. Gary, how you feeling about this win? Because I can tell you right now, as a Rams fan and a Kansas Jayhawks fan,
tough day, huh?
I needed the Yankees to come through, and they did.
Yeah, the Cardinals shellacked you guys. Let's be honest. But it was a great day for Yankees fans. I mean, obviously, everybody has their adjustments that they would like to see, whether you wanted to see Wells in the lineup, which we didn't get. But when the Yankees win and Baltimore loses, you just get into a situation where we were all almost feeling like the Yankees would just find a way to fumble this lead and then suddenly make that Baltimore series in New York just dire, right? Which still technically can happen, but based on trends, the Yankees are trending up. Baltimore is going in the wrong direction. So I understand we can all get nitpicky. This is a show that we run every single day for over an hour. We have a lot of content here, but you almost can overthink things every once in a while, right? Like sometimes when you text me this morning, actually, Jake, and you said, I knew Trevino was going to be in there. I just knew it. And I agreed with your takeaway that Wells should be in there. But at the same time, I did say the Yankees have plenty in their lineup where if they lose, that's just a lack of performance. You have to go out there and win. This Boston team is a 500 ball club. And you can't tell me that pulling one player that you think should be in the lineup is enough to undo the entire day. So I said, let's be patient. Let's see what they do. They have to go out and win. And they did exactly that. So I was happy.
Yeah, everyone should be happy about this win. This was a huge win to get this thing done instead of just splitting the series at 2 games and 2 games. You win the damn series. You win the season series because of it. I mean, it was pretty much already won beforehand. But no, actually, this was the rubber match. I mean, this is 13 games, and they won the 7th game. So hats off to them. It didn't look like they were going to win the season series. And if push comes to shove, this is going to help the tiebreaker as far as the AL East is concerned. Not saying that will matter, but in case it does, this definitely helps. I thought when you looked at this game to start, and we're going to get into just the order of the lineup and, talk about whether we believe in them or not, go through each individual one for the postseason. In addition to that rotation, but yeah, I look at this, Gary, I look at this game, and I was just really overall impressed with Gleyber Torres, just what he's meant to this lineup. And the fact, he another 2 for 5, another home run. I think he right now might be the best hitter on the team the last month. Now, Judge is starting to heat up again, so that'll take a matter of no time at all if he keeps going, because he'll just be way more valuable.
Oh, yeah, his ceiling's way higher, of course.
But Gleyber is, and this is the real thing, the Yankees are winning games despite Juan Soto not being Juan Soto, okay?
Yeah.
And so I feel like, and this might be a hot take, but I feel like Gleyber Torres is kind of snuck in there as kind of the Juan Soto of the team, while Juan Soto has been, kind of, in a funk. I mean, he's now hitting 285. And what I mean by that is, no disrespect. I'm not obviously saying Gleyber Torres is Juan Soto, but as far as being that pure hitter, that hitter that can get on base, that can generate a pitch count, that can generate walks, that can, just be effective at putting runs on the board. That Juan Soto has been gone since he had that crazy streak of home runs. Since that stopped, he has not done anything since, really. He's been like sporadic. He'll have his moments, but for the most part, in a grand scale, he hasn't been great. And so I think the Yankees are still winning games despite that, because guys like Gleyber Torres are stepping up. Today, no Austin Wells in the lineup. Trevino goes over for 2 strikeouts. So you didn't have that kind of run creator, in my opinion, in the cleanup spot. Jazz Chisholm can be that, but typically speaking, you want Jazz batting near the bottom, so he is kind of free to go on the base paths. When you have him batting there, it's kind of like, well, he's in between Stanton and Judge, and you kind of just, obviously you want to create havoc, but you feel more confident him at the bottom of the lineup creating that, adding a little bit more of a boost to some of the weaker hitters in the lineup. And so that's how I look at it, Gary. I think, Gleyber Torres has been kind of invaluable to this team. And I understand he started off slow, but I'll tell you right now, his slumps and him starting off slow were nowhere near as bad as some of the other players on this roster. So I think when you look at all things considered, when you look at what he's done since he was benched and how, like, the maturity and everything, it's turned him back into, I would say he'd be in the All-Star game right now. If this was at the All-Star break, he's been one of the best second basemen for the last 2 months.
Yeah. So here's the crazy part about Gleyber Torres, because I've mentioned Gleyber. We've had this discussion about who he is right now. And the interesting part about this player is that we'll watch him, and you just described him as a player over the last 30 days has probably been our most consistent bat. Now, Aaron Judge is a much better hitter. Juan Soto, much better player, much better hitter. We totally get it. But as far as hitting for average the last 30 days, as far as getting on base, which is his job as the leadoff hitter, his job is not to hit homers, which you saw today. His job is to reach first base. So as far as I'm concerned, consistency has been his calling card, essentially, this last month. And by the way, everyone who soured on Gleyber Torres, they have a right to their opinion. I totally get it. We saw the player he was the first 2.5 months of the season. I understand. But if you had to take a pick, as a Yankee, which months do you want to play poorly and which months do you want to show up? And everyone has told us over the years, the New York Yankees are judged on what they do in September and October, the part of the season that matters, winning a pennant, getting to a World Series. And everyone was talking about what Aaron Judge is doing, right? He was ice cold. Is he on the back half of a bad contract, right? What he did after a month. No one was talking about that anymore by the All-Star break. But again, would you rather see somebody hitting like that in the first month of the year? Or would you rather see it in September? Gleyber Torres is showing up when it matters during the season. At this point, these games are must win every day. Because if we don't win, we're looking over our shoulder and saying, what did Baltimore do today? We know they played Detroit. Did they win that game today? There's pressure. And that's a good thing when there's somebody at the plate that you can rely on when the pressure's on. Gleyber Torres is a player like that right now. And as far as I'm concerned with the Yankees, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto have been massively inconsistent the last 2.5 weeks. Now, that happens in a baseball season. We totally understand it, but the timing of it is very important, right? Juan Soto a couple days ago had a big home run, huge for this team. But if you take a look at who Juan Soto's been, who's he going to be tomorrow? Who was he today? They're not necessarily the version of Juan Soto that you saw 2 months ago. It's just not. Now, we expect that to turn on, but as far as I'm concerned, when we're going to judge Gleyber Torres and whether or not the Yankees should potentially bring him back, we're not saying a $100 million contract, but when a player turns it on at the point of the season where the pressure's on, that's worth, in my opinion, more than anything else another player's done. So I get it. I would rather have 55 homers, all that. But you're giving me a consistent bat in September to outrun Baltimore and potentially be hosting games at Yankee Stadium in October. Yes, sign me up for that, please.
Yeah, he's already done some stuff in October. He's already shown that he can hit in October. So
yes,
normally that stuff doesn't go away because that's not just it's time for me to go into a slump thing. That's more so the clutch gene comes out. How do you perform when your best is required? It's that simple. So before we dive into, because I'm actually really excited for this segment, Gary. Before we dive into this segment, though, just want to give field level shout outs to Juan Soto, Kid from LI, Carlos Marrero, Jeff J, Ed W, Brian Fuchs, Ryan Hoffman, Rich Squires, Joshua Halleckman, Egyptian Magician, Nick Gomes, Jalen Cicero, JT Roberts, Mickey G, and our guy Ronnie, who has just become a new member. So shout out to Ronnie, also
Thank you,
field
Ronnie.
level.
Appreciate you.
Very much appreciate you. And now we move on to my favorite part of the show, where we're going to go through each bat that will be on the postseason roster, likely be on the postseason roster. And we're going to decide whether or not we trust them. That's simple.
I think that's fair.
I think it's very fair. So let's start off with Austin Wells. Do you trust him?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, the best trait, and there are a lot of strong traits for Austin Wells offensively, it's his discipline and understanding when and when not to swing the bat. That's something that will always play. When it gets cold out and the games are important, plate discipline, at least in my opinion, is the most important part of the game. You have the game's best pitchers. They've got the game's best stuff. And you know what you need when you see 100 miles an hour and it's moving across the plate and it's insane? Well, you need guys who understand, what am I really looking at here, right? Having an understanding of what your eyes are telling you. And when you have guys who you can't trust to not swing at pitches outside the strike zone, well, it's going to get a lot more difficult, right? When guys are throwing 100 and you see Class A at the end of the game, there are names in our lineup that you just straight up do not trust. You're like, I don't even trust that this guy's going to know what and what not to swing at. Austin Wells is one of those players that I trust at the end of the game facing the game's best pitching. So I'm going to say absolutely yes.
I like that. I'm obviously going to agree with you because, you know, I'm an Austin Wells fan, obviously. And it's not because, like, I'm not being biased here. Like, I'm a fan of his play. I'm a fan of the way he's turned himself into something. I mean, if I was wrong about his, you know, the prediction for him and he ended up being terrible, I'd own it, you know?
Yeah.
But he's a very good player. Now, his high leverage at bats, he has a 207 batting average and a 648 OPS. Medium leverage, he has a 265 batting average, 854 OPS. Now, I kind of feel like medium and high leverage, it's kind of subjective at that point, really. Like, you could call something, yeah, it's high leverage, but you could also call it, you know, kind of in the middle. What I'll say is this. I think Austin Wells, I do trust him. You know, and the reason I trust Austin Wells in the postseason, even though he's a rookie and he didn't get to play last year, I trust him because, to your point, his plate discipline is something that's translatable. You know, some guys like Marco Scutaro, their best is required. I need to go and be a Major League Baseball player.
Right.
And then some guys will just absolutely flake under the pressure. But if you're already doing those good things, I mean, typically speaking, guys that have great plate discipline, they don't just lose it because they're in the postseason. I don't buy that. Guys who, you know, lose it in the postseason are guys that just mentally don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have the it factor. And so that's how I look at it, Gary, is that if he were to say not translate to, you know, the postseason, it would be more mental. It wouldn't be based on, you know, his plate discipline. I know I'm going to have that. That's how it's a repetition thing.
Wow.
You know, yeah. I know I'm going to have that out of him. Now, the question I need to know is going up against better pitchers on a nightly basis. That is my thing, because he's been going up against major league pitching and he doesn't play every day. So he might see just sporadically good pitching, bad pitching, good pitching, bad pitching. But when you need him to come up, you know, against an Astros or, you know, a Dodgers or a Phillies, and they got all these bullpen arms and they got all these starters that have all this crazy stuff. can you expect Austin Wells to come through? My indication, based on what I've seen this year, is that Austin Wells is going to be a huge contributor in the postseason. I think he is 100% going to work out, and I think we'll be very happy with what we see from him in October.
Yeah, I want to make sure I bring this up because I almost forgot, but I almost feel like it is a little overrated talking about it factor and clutch gene, because there are a lot of people, not just in baseball, but in sports, where we just kind of chalk it up to when the games get important, this player just comes up small. And I think that's really an overrated idea. I really think there's just certain players out there and players all over the world where stylistically postseason baseball fits their style of play more so than the regular season. And that's something I truly believe. It's something I really haven't talked about, but I can give you a perfect example, very short and simple. Lamar Jackson in the NFL. People look at him as a player who comes up short when in the big game on the bright lights, but realistically, the reason he can't win is because he has no pocket presence. He can't beat you from the pocket. He has to use his legs. Well, guess what? In postseason NFL play, you're not able to dominate a game outside the pocket. It's just the way the game's played. So I don't think in these situations, when you bring up Scudero, when you bring up Sandoval in San Francisco, right? All these players who have repeated success in October, I think stylistically, there's certain players that can have an impact on a game that maybe they can't do it quite as much in 162. And one of those players is Jazz Chisholm. So fit wise, I think like we'll talk out this roster, whether or not I think or you think some of these players stylistically can be good for the Yankees in October. But then there's also some players you're like, okay, this player's not going to work out, right? Gary Sanchez, Luke Voigt. We understand those players might be good in 162, but they hit 40 jacks in the regular season. Is that going to help you in October? Probably not.
No, that's absolutely fair. I mean, when you look at Austin Wells, I think he's definitely going to translate. I definitely think that what you bring up is 100% fair because to a degree, A-Rod, I mean, you could say people, didn't think that he had it in him and then he goes out and does it. You really only have to do it once. Like Aaron Boone is always known as the clutch guy, but I mean, if he, that's what Aaron Boone is remembered as a player, just for that home run.
I don't think I've ever seen him get another hit on video. And mind you, this is a person who played professional baseball. He's done plenty else other than that home run. But to your point, if you do something, I actually brought this up with CC Sabathia as well. He helped the Yankees win one World Series, and we attribute him as a clutch player in October, and rightfully so. You literally have to do this thing once. So great point.
Yeah. No, and then we move on to Jose Trevino. Do you trust him in the playoffs?
I don't trust him in the regular season. So I'm being serious with you. This is a player, to be honest with you, I believe he's in the game not because of his bat. Where I become concerned with this player in Jose Trevino is his glove. I'm not talking about pitch framing. He's excellent at that. He can really help out a game. He can call a really good game. No question about it. He did it today with Rodon. But that arm is not going to play in October. As soon as you see Trevino behind the plate at any point, if we do, the other team they are damn fools if they are not at least attempting to get the running game going. And I believe the arm is bad enough from Trevino that even a team stylistically that does not even want to steal bases, they will force the issue. And I think it will hurt the Yankees in October. I do not trust him.
Yeah, I don't trust him. And I'm not really worried about his bat because, I mean, he kind of goes back and forth. I mean, medium leverage, he hits 276. High leverage, he's a 195 hitter. Low leverage, he's a 204 hitter. So if he's good medium leverage, you'd have to imagine that every single at bat in the postseason is medium leverage. Okay. That's how I'm going to look at it. Yeah. So you have to assume that he'd be able to do something in the postseason, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of how I see it. I see him as somebody that I don't trust, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up coming up big in the postseason, coming through with a big hit, giving him a win. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if what you and I kind of think is going to happen, where he's just, you can't trust him. He's not going to be that good. And that's all there is to it, So
Never thought I would trust his bat more than I trust his glove, because it's his
I know
arm.
it's a
His
platinum glove
arm is the
winner.
problem. His arm is the problem. It just is. If he had a hose back there, obviously situationally with Austin Wells is the better player. He's just he can run, right? He can throw, he can field.
Okay, I
all
don't
that.
trust his bat either.
His
Apparently,
bat's not great. Wait, what's
1
up?
for 22 in the postseason.
Is he really?
Yep, he's got a .089 OPS.
Well, so much for medium leverage, huh?
Yeah, who is that, by the way? You got your Ty Cobb, and you got your who the hell is .089? Is that us?
That's so his batting average is probably 007. That's James Bond for you right there.
His batting average is .045.
Yeah, that is the new agent. That is a Secret Service agent right there. Yeah, it's insane. So obviously, no, we don't trust him. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, we don't trust him. Anthony Rizzo.
I will say this. I think I trust Anthony Rizzo in a very niched situation. I think if you tee him up, not as a starter where he's facing the opposing team's best pitchers and taking 4 at-bats and then just fielding first base, not in that way. But if you're talking about maybe there's a couple players in the big leagues where you see a really good left-handed arm out there in the postseason, and maybe he has reverse splits, Anthony Rizzo is a tough lefty to pitch to because he faces lefties. He usually does pretty well and has a really good at bat. So I don't want to overly judge what he's done during the season and then say he cannot do something in October. But again, I want to make sure I preface that statement by saying I do not trust him as a starter. I do not. He can do something, but very situational. Very.
No, I get that. I definitely get that. And I'm looking at his postseason success, and he hit 218 in the postseason, 724 OPS. He had a 413 slugging and 310 on base percentage. I mean, he's basically what he is right now with a little bit more slugging, a lot more slugging, better on base percentage. He's got the same batting average.
Well, we would take slugging if your batting average is low. So again, you can turn a game on its head with slugging in October, but we don't want to see a guy who's slugging and not putting the ball in play or doesn't have the ability to get a hit when he needs it. So yeah, like I said before, if you really need him in a situation and we come up in a spot, maybe there's an injury and you see maybe a Trent Grisham has to come into the game as a hitter, well then perhaps you pull Trent Grisham or whoever else, a defensive replacement, and throw Rizzo up there for a professional at bat. Now, when I preface that statement of professional at bat, that doesn't mean a great hitter. It just means better than maybe someone else who's going up there.
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, when it comes to Rizzo, I trust him kind of like you in a niche role.
Okay.
I don't love Anthony Rizzo, though, in the postseason, to be fair.
Oh, I don't think anybody does. I believe, before we move on from this, I believe you're going to be hard-pressed to find a single person in our comment section that's like, Rizzo? No, he's going to execute in October. I don't think there's anybody who has that feeling, but it's a matter of, can he do anything for the Yankees in October? Because he will likely be on the roster. Now, that's the question.
Now, this is an interesting one. Oswaldo Cabrera.
I don't trust him because if you look at his strengths and his weaknesses, right? This is a player. He's not slapping singles. When he puts the ball in play, he can drive the ball, and that's a good thing, right? But let me say this about him. The one weakness that I've seen from him, there's a lot of swing and miss in that game, and he really struggles taking walks. And one thing I'll tell you about postseason baseball, if you watch the way postseason baseball is usually played, most runs are played in October. It is 1 out, 2 outs, guy walks, there's another walk, bleeder single to right field. Next guy gets out. 1-0 Yankees, you move on to the second inning. That's the way October baseball is played. And sometimes the best thing you can do in October is just have the ability to do what we said Austin Wells does really well. which is deciding not to swing the bat and move it to the next hitter. That's something I don't trust Cabrera to do. Now, I believe he can do something with his bat, but again, when you're talking about giving him at bats in October, I have to trust that you'll do what works in October. And that's what I've said about style. I don't know if his style will work in October. I hope it does. It's just not something that I can trust right now.
And that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. I mean, he's 2 for 28 in October.
Okay.
I do think he's a much different and better player than he was 2 years ago, because that's only from his time in the ALDS. Worth mentioning, he did have a game where he came in and hit a home run. So he has actually hit a postseason home run, which is kind of a big deal. But I think you can trust him more than you did in 2022. I don't think you can trust him. I don't think it's fair to say you can trust him, but you can't trust Rizzo. You can't trust Jose Trevino when those guys have actually at least been there more than just one time around. I mean, if we were giving him the benefit of the doubt here, he has a 318 OPS, a .071 batting average in 8 games. I mean, you know,
so he's Cabrera, like a Nissan Altima. So you might get to work and get home, but it may break down on you. So that's yeah, Cabrera is the Nissan Altima of the 2024 postseason.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the Nissan Altima can be a great car until it breaks down. Then it's not.
So Gleyber Torres, we kind of already touched on in a sense, but do you trust him?
Oh, 100%. Not only do I trust him, and based on what he did, first of all, he was a monster during the COVID postseason. I get it. It was 4 years ago, and we'll move on from there. But what he's doing of late, you have to imagine the way you play in September when the games become important, like really important. Everybody's watching, right? It's getting cold out. You're playing huge games. Everyone's staring at the standings. Well, the players that are coming through at that moment are more than likely going to be the players that we rely on in October. So you may think Gleyber Torres shouldn't return. Everyone's entitled to that opinion. But Gleyber Torres right now is one of our hottest bats, if not probably our hottest bat right now. So to say I wouldn't trust him, I think that would be doing him a huge disservice. And we watch every game. I trust Gleyber Torres today, and I trust him in October.
No, I like that. I mean, I trust Gleyber as well. He has a 281 batting average. That is 31 game sample size in the postseason. So
that's very good.
Yeah, 820 OPS. I mean, I definitely trust Gleyber. And I trust Gleyber that, you know, I wouldn't even be against him. Like, if you have to keep him in the lineup, playing him at, you know, freaking first base or shortstop, just getting him in the lineup. I mean, I'm not saying that I would love him playing shortstop, but if it comes down to that, Gary, where, you know, they're really trying to find a way to get everybody on the field and Volpe struggling. And, you know, I mean, that's another thing. We're going to get to Volpe in a minute, but it's just one of those things, man, where you look at the lineup and it's tough because defense does matter when it comes to October. But if you're not getting any juice whatsoever, they might have to try something like that. So we'll see. But Gleyber is just fantastic as of late. And I mean, the last time he was in the postseason, right? Mm-hmm. You're looking at 2022. I mean, he had 3 hits in both of those series. So pretty recently, he had 5 hits.
He's just good in October, man. He's good.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I'll say about that. I trust Gleyber. The numbers show that you should trust Gleyber. It's 31 games. That's enough of a sample size for me. And yeah, that's how I feel. So moving on. Do you trust Anthony Volpe?
Okay. So I understand the elephant in the room. When you say trust, usually we're implying they're backed, right? Are they going to be able to come up big? When we talk about Mike Trout and his shortcomings in October in clutch baseball, when he has had an opportunity, we are talking about his bat, not his ability to go run down fly balls in center field. But as far as the bat goes, there is nobody that trusts. Nobody is speaking highly of Anthony Volpe's bat of the past 2.5 months. Okay. That is a fact. But here's another thing. I'm going to double down on this. When I say I don't trust Anthony Volpe, not only did I not trust the bat, we talk and speak very highly of his glove. if there's one thing about Anthony Volpe, he has been in huge games in the regular season this year. He has been putrid defensively. He has made huge errors for this Yankees team. Now, I understand errors is not the best way to judge a baseball player. It's not. But you know what, Jake? You know one thing about us? We don't miss a game. Okay? I watch the games. So I'm not looking at the box score and saying, man, Volpe's got 16 errors or 13 errors, and then I make a judgment about what that must mean. No. In the biggest games, when everyone else is watching, we were watching anyways. Is Anthony Volpe making all the plays that need to be made? The answer is no. Well, you know what? In October, he is going to be in that situation again, more than likely not being in the lineup over being a bat. He's out there to be a defensive anchor at shortstop. If he's not doing that, then obviously he's useless. But I don't trust that he's going to be a good enough glove in October. That worries me.
No, I agree with that. And that's actually a really great point that you made about the defense, because it does seem like in those clutch situations, he just hasn't quite been, as advertised. But Anthony Volpe, he went 0 for 4 today, 3 strikeouts. He's now batting 167 in the last month with 0 extra base hits. Since June 6th, Volpe is hitting 216, 75 for 348.
When was the last time he hit an extra base hit?
I don't even know. His average on the year went from 290 to 247 in that span. So, I mean, yeah, I don't trust Volpe at all. I mean, he's given me no reason to. He's never been in the postseason before. He doesn't do well under pressure, even in the field. I'm out entirely. So I do not trust Anthony Volpe.
This reminds me of the interview in Step Brothers where they're like, we don't do particularly well around computers. They're like, well, that's going to be a problem. Right. So essentially what we're saying is Anthony Volpe doesn't hit for a high batting average. He doesn't slug. And in key situations defensively, he makes mistakes. Well, how does that possibly? Okay, it can work in October. Like, we're never going to just count somebody out. We're going to be rooting for Volpe 100%.
Of course.
But
I actually like him, but
we love Anthony Volpe on the show. But to pretend that you're going to watch a long, drawn out sample size of poor defense in the clutch and poor hitting, right? Batting average wise and slugging. And then suddenly I'm supposed to guess that I can trust you in the biggest games of the year. That would be malpractice on our part. So obviously we're not going to do it.
No, of course not. And, I think when it comes to, Anthony Volpe, it's just really, we're trying to be honest here. It's really easy to get, fall in love with a top prospect. And I think with us, it's just, we're just trying to be, straightforward, because I could totally see wanting to defend the guy that was called, the next Derek Jeter, whatever they want to call him. I get that, but we have to be honest with ourselves. I mean, like you said, great fielder, but he, in big moments, seems to struggle. And then you look at the bat, and it's like, if you have at least one of those sides, then you don't question the other. But if you have the bat, you really never are going to question the fielding.
No.
And so that's kind of where we're at right now. Is I think I'd just rather have Anthony Volpe have the bat. But you're pointing out that even in those clutch situations, he's not fielding at the level that he needs to. So yeah, it's kind of like it, in a way, I think a lot of coaches and general managers in all of sports kind of deal with this. And what is that? Well, I'll tell you. So, what you're saying with Anthony Volpe is that basically the numbers would dictate he's a fantastic fielder. Yes. But what is not really being said is that in big moments, he's not clutch as a fielder. If anything, he's really kind of faltered. He's botched. He's booted him. He's had throwing errors. So I think what you're saying is something that I will bring to the forefront about sports in general. I think players, if you want to be delusional and you really like the player and you want to just keep your bias or favoritism as a coach or a GM, you can find those numbers to make you feel good about anybody.
That is
everyone
true.
has a good split in some capacity because it's not measuring the same variable, right?
Right.
They're all different. That's the thing about splits. So everyone could be good at something. Like you could be the best in the world at striking out. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like
You
you could
can
be
hit
good.
200 for a year, but then you hit in low leverage situations, you hit 150. In high leverage situations, you hit 165. And then for whatever reason, in medium situations, you
Which is
hit
common.
64. Right. So, like you're saying, you can talk yourself in that huge error that Anthony Volpe made in the Baltimore series, right? It was humongous. Lost
Yeah.
his. Now, having said that, Aaron Boone after the game, and rightfully so, Aaron Boone was correct. This is exactly what you should say. He's been excellent defensively, right? He's been excellent defensively at shortstop. So we're not going to lose confidence in this player. That's perfectly fine to say because what he said was true. Anthony Volpe had been excellent and he's been excellent, but we're talking about a very small sample size. We're talking about maybe 20 games this year, 20 baseball games where we said, this is a game we had circled on our calendar. Everyone's watching this game, right? Big game at Fenway, big game in Houston, big game in Baltimore, or Baltimore's coming to the Yankee Stadium. How does Anthony Volpe look defensively in those series? And the answer is not very good. So this can absolutely turn around because this seems like it's between the ears. And that can always be fixed. We saw it with Alex Rodriguez offensively and defensively. But this is a player who has a lot to prove, and we're rooting for him. But as of now, no way we trust him.
Yeah. No, it's I can't trust him going into the postseason. Jazz Chisholm, where are you on him? He's considered way better as a high leverage hitter.
I actually love mentally where Jazz Chisholm's at coming into the postseason. Now, let me get this off my chest. Jazz Chisholm has made boneheaded plays on the base paths this past week, right? They have been bad, really bad. And I believe that's something that's focus, right? That's a lack of focus and execution. I think that will be shored up when the games become really important. Like the difference between going home and staying for a World Series championship is knowing how many outs there are. That will be fixed. I'm not worried about it. So he needs to be accountable. It'll be fixed. But Jazz Chisholm, I believe, has the personality in October where he's almost so raw out there in the field that he's, dare I say, almost it almost looks like he's naive enough to just not even understand how important of a situation he's about to be in. And that's something that I really like about Jazz Chisholm. He actually has fun. That's something that we don't usually see at Yankee Stadium. But Jazz Chisholm is absolutely the most fun baseball player to watch on the Yankees when he's playing well. I get it. People love Aaron Judge. They love Juan Soto. But does anybody else look more enjoyable? Like if you brought a 12-year-old to Yankee Stadium, if they saw Jazz Chisholm have 3 hits, they would leave having that been their favorite player. So I think Jazz Chisholm is a difference maker. And I'm actually excited to see what he does in October because nobody knows. Nobody.
Yeah, he had one game where he went 1 for 3 in his first game in the postseason, and then he didn't hit. Only 3 games in the postseason, so there you go. Yeah, I trust Jazz. I do. I've seen him enough, in big spots have to do something, come through. I mean, late in close games, he has a 301 batting average, 825 OPS. In tie game situations, he has a 304 batting average, 871 OPS. And it's like, you look at that and you see, 2 outs runners in scoring position, hitting 273 with a 385 on base percentage. This is somebody that is coming up when he needs to. This is a big deal. High leverage situations, he has a 315 batting average and he hits 900 for OPS. Medium leverage, 238, 710, and low leverage, 259, 772. And guess what? That's what I feel like we watch for the most part. We see a guy when you need him to come through, like the splits show it, and I see it. He comes through. And what's funny is when you look at his OPS in medium leverage, I think that's because he is essentially trying to do way too much. And, now that kind of the pressure's off him, because I think when he locks in, he's really just focused. Like he knows bases loaded. I just need to get a hit. And he's good at placing those hits in between two defenders. So I think when you look at that, and just the way he's played, obviously high leverage, you're just trying to get through and win. Medium leverage, you can kind of take a little bit of a swing. And I think that is more so, I don't think it's a shock that Jazz Chisholm has 9 home runs in medium leverage, where he only has 8 in low leverage. So he has more in medium leverage and only 5 in high leverage. I don't think it's a shock at all.
Yeah, low leverage doesn't exist in October.
Yeah, I think he swings for the fences if nobody's on base. I think he swings for the fences, when guys are on base, but not necessarily in a high leverage point. And then when it's high leverage, you just need a hit. He's going to punch that ball out into left field, and that's how I feel about Jazz. So do I trust him? I do. I think he'll find multiple ways to affect the game, whether it be on the base paths, as a fielder, or as a hitter. But I think he's going to have most of the games he plays on the Yankees in the postseason, he's going to affect the game in all the ways. And that is why Jazz Chisholm is so valuable and why I think he could leave the postseason. If the Yankees win the World Series and say he has a really good postseason, he's literally going to be now viewed as a franchise player moving forward. And they might look into extending him even before his deal's up, so that's something to keep an eye on.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the one thing I would say is the wild card here with Jazz Chisholm is defensively. Yeah. Jazz Chisholm's a player. First and foremost, he started off that first 10 days, I would say, in pinstripes. Defensively, I mean, he looked like Brooks Robinson over there. It was ridiculous. Now, obviously, he didn't play at that level, but you saw range. You saw a cannon of an arm. You see the raw tools that there's a reason this player's bounced all around the field. He can play center, second base, short, third. It doesn't matter. He can play. And that translated immediately. He's almost seamlessly moved over to third base. But then there was a week where we saw an injury. Jazz Chisholm came off the field, right? He came back. He actually made quite a few errors in pinstripes at third base. And we said, let's be patient with him, right? So my question here is that, and I don't want to drag this on, but there is a chance that some teams, if the situation gets close enough, maybe they want to drop down a button, see what Jazz Chisholm does over at third base, see what he does, how he reacts. This is all situations that are all new. He may pass with flying colors, but no one has a perfect understanding of what he's going to look like at third base in the most important games of the year. We have more of an understanding of what he'll do with the bat.
I mean, the way I see it is that I think guys are just going to try and place bunts down anyway because it's the postseason. I think you'll see a lot of that. So I think Jazz could see himself in those positions just based on that. Maybe it's a suicide squeeze. Hopefully it's not, because I don't know. Would I trust Jazz in that sense? I don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea. So, yeah. Who we have next in the lineup, or is that we're close to the end?
It's John Berti.
John Berti is a 34-year-old veteran. I don't think he's going to get overly worked up and nervous about his impact. And we have to remember the way the Yankees are using him is on the base pass. Use your legs. If he's healthy, we can always use Berti in the postseason. So, yeah, I'm not worried about trusting him. That's the one benefit, and part of the reason why everyone always wonders, why do the Yankees always have to go get the 33-year-old veteran on the back half of his career? Well, guys, there's a big reason for that. A lot of veteran players, they understand how to play when the pressure's on. That's part of being a veteran. You have experience. So there are pros and cons of getting young players and then older players in the back half of their career. Berti is 34. I think he'll be prepared. We put him on the field.
I 100% agree. Not really much needs to be said after that. He's a veteran. He's somebody that's been around for a long time, can help you on the base pass, can help you as a defender, can help you as a hitter. Yeah, I think he's just going to be way too valuable off the bench for the Yankees, so I trust him. Moving on, Jason Dominguez. I got to be honest with you. I don't trust Jason Dominguez in the postseason, and here's why.
Okay.
I haven't seen him enough. I know he's come through in moments, and it was fun last year a little bit before he got hurt. But the reality is I can sit here till I'm blue in the face and say they need to call up Jason Dominguez. Then they call up Jason Dominguez. Here's the thing. They haven't been willing to keep him there being the guy. He's been on, he's been off, he's been on, he's been off. Well, he's running out of time. Like, Gary, I genuinely wonder if he's going to be revved up enough. I mean, hopefully he will, but I can't trust him because I've never seen him in the postseason before. He could easily be like Juan Soto and be that majestic guy. And honestly, when he just kind of shuts everything out and it's just like, oh, this is the postseason, he might just naturally become that. But at the same time, he could be horrible. And that's always possible too. And so not knowing, because he has no experience in the postseason, one, and he hasn't played, like, I think he's played 5 games total this year. I just think when you factor those two things in, you're kind of like, yeah, I don't really trust that.
Okay. This is solely predicated with Jason Dominguez on whether or not he plays every day. Now, if Jason Dominguez is in the lineup, let's just say the Yankees are penciling in their third best outfielder on the roster, and they are saying we're not going to overthink the matchups. Jason Dominguez, you are the starting left fielder of the New York Yankees. Have at it. You're batting 7th. You have to remember the role he's in. I don't look at 7 hitters because that's exactly the role he's going to be asked to play. I don't look at 7 hitters as game changers. But you know what? How many 7 hitters in Major League Baseball would you consider to be reliable in October ball? Jason Dominguez has the physical capabilities of actually carrying a game or two in October. He has the physical skill set. So, having said that, do you know who's a really good lineup in the Major League Baseball? The Los Angeles Dodgers. Do you know who their 7 hitter is? Gavin Lux. Are you going into October with Gavin Lux, who's hitting 248, right? He's got some pop, a little bit of pop, not a ton. But you think Gavin Lux is somebody that the Dodgers saying, yeah, so when we go into the American League in the National League Championship Series, Gavin Lux, we really think is going to be a key contributor for us. No, they don't. They're just hoping that he can move the lineup along so that they can get to Ohtani, so that they can get to Mookie Betts, right? And Hernandez and Freeman. That's the point of that role. So I believe if Jason Dominguez was in a bigger role, like he was hitting second or leadoff or third, then in that sense, I would say absolutely not. I do not trust this player. He hasn't done it. He's only been here about 15 minutes. But you know what, Jake? If he's hiding at the bottom of a lineup, the Yankees can rely on his physical toolbox and say at some point or another, he's going to be serviceable enough in left field. He's going to turn a game on its head. We don't know when, but it's going to be at some point. So I do trust him in the sense of the role he's in today.
Okay. Yeah, I guess based on that, I would agree. I think in the grand scheme of things, do you trust him to be a consistent contributor if they needed him to be one of the main guys?
No, and that would only come from the top 4 of a postseason lineup.
Yeah.
I would say there's about 2 teams in Major League Baseball that go about 5 deep where I go, yeah, that name right there, I would want him up there, right? Teoscar Hernandez hits 4th or 5th in the Dodgers lineup. If he came up in a postseason series, can he get out? Absolutely. But are the Dodgers saying, man, I really wish Ohtani was up in this situation? Hernandez is not necessarily going to be formidable here. No, he's absolutely formidable in October. So would I be like, oh, Jason Dominguez is coming up with the bases loaded and 1 out? This is a situation I expect to be executed. Absolutely not. No, because just we don't have enough data. We don't. That would just be guesswork. So I'm just on the side of caution, which of course you led. And I just know his physical capabilities are high enough, which is why we protected him in this system, that he has the physical capabilities to help. And so having said that, I think those capabilities are enough reason to put him on the field. And you just kind of hope to God he does.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. Alex Verdugo, do you trust him in the postseason? Yes or no?
I don't trust Alex Verdugo to make me an omelet. He's not trustworthy to do anything other than the role I explained to you earlier, which was to be a defensive replacement. I know he's made some key mistakes this year, but He's a left fielder. He covers a ton of ground. And most importantly, he has a very strong arm. Situationally, Alex Verdugo, if you're in a situation where the man on third base defensively and less than 2 outs, I absolutely would utilize Alex Verdugo in left field or in center field or in right to make a throw in a clutch situation. I trust him in that capacity. But when it comes to what he does with the bat, anyone who trusts Alex Verdugo, I don't trust that person.
I don't trust Alex Verdugo either. Now, doesn't mean he can't contribute in some way off the bench, but I don't trust Alex Verdugo. Big moment. I don't trust him. So
yeah, technically anyone can contribute, technically, right? Anyone can do something, and we're well aware this is sports. They're going up to the plate so something good can happen. If it was impossible, then like we wouldn't actually play. But to actually make the prediction that, oh yeah, Verdugo's up with a man on second and third with nobody out, I expect him to, not only have a good at bat, but execute in this situation, right? Put a ball in the air and allow somebody to tag up, get a hit in a big situation with runners in scoring position. Do you expect that to happen? No. Is it physically possible? Of course. So we just don't want to see if it is possible. Let's not find that out.
Yeah. And then you have Aaron Judge. And I mean, I got to be honest with you. I do trust Aaron Judge. And you know why? It's because, first off, he has been out of the postseason for a year. So I think he's ready to get back. And I think he's going to play at a different level. But I trust him because going into October, we're starting to see him turn it back on. Last year, Judge ended, or not last year, but 2022, Judge ended the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
He ended the season kind of swinging for the fences because he was trying to get to 62.
Rightfully so.
And yeah, and you started to see him struggle. He really finished the season off to like a horrible start, and then I feel like going into the October, the way he finished September, I think was really one of the main reasons why he struggled as much as he did. Because I think when you start hitting yourself, you get back into a rhythm. I think going into October, you're more than likely to retain that. So, that's how I see it with Aaron Judge. But I'm curious where you are on Aaron Judge.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Any year before this year, I did not trust him. This year I do. And I'll tell you why that's changed. I believe actually there's one stat that matters for Aaron Judge. And this might shock people because this is a stat that no one seems to give a rip about anymore. And it's an indication that something has changed, is batting average. Now, if you look at Aaron Judge's batting average this year, okay, it would be an indication that something has occurred. A light switch has gone off for Aaron Judge. And that light switch is that I'm not swinging at pitches outside the strike zone. I may strike out. I may be rung up on a pitch that's a ball and a half outside the zone that maybe I should have protected the plate, but he's not swinging at pitches outside the zone, not as often. So that batting average shows me that not only is he a better baseball player, but he's reading pitches much better. He's staying within himself much more often. And I think in general, when I talk about style of play in October, the hitters that play the best in October more than likely are dominating the strike zone. They're not trying to be Vladimir Guerrero and hitting a ball off the dirt and hitting a ball in the right center. No, in October, you hit mistakes and you let the other pitches on the corner or off the plate, you let those pitches go. It's something that Aaron Judge has perfected. That's why he's hitting as many home runs as he's hitting. He understands which pitches to swing at, which ones not to. So I just think right now, if October baseball started tomorrow, I would assume Aaron Judge would be our most formidable bat. I just would. So that's the reason why my projection of what's going to happen in October baseball this year is that Aaron Judge is going to go nuclear. I do. I think Aaron Judge is going to go 2009 Alex Rodriguez, where the narrative has completely shifted on this player, and he will be known. I understand people look at him as maybe the face of baseball, maybe it's Ohtani. I think in 2024, it will be established as 99.
Yeah, I love what you said. I think if that happens, though, they're at least going to the World Series.
Has to. And that's
So
not necessarily his call. A lot of people have a role in that. But that's been the same case for Derek Jeter. It's been the same case for Alex Rodriguez, where Hideki Matsui came up huge in the World Series, right? So there's a lot in play here, but Aaron Judge is going to need his teammates before everybody starts crowning him, because that's just the way baseball goes, whether that's fair or not. But as far as his performance, I don't think I have any doubt this year. Judge is going to be a menace.
I could see it. I really could. Something about him this year feels different. Like, to your point, he's been more of a pure hitter, which is kind of funny because we said Juan Soto. Well, I said Juan Soto was the best pure hitter. Speaking of Juan Soto, do you trust him? I know he's struggling right now, but do you trust a guy who's already done it? He's won a World Series and he's helped them win a World Series.
Yeah, we don't trade for a player of this magnitude if I didn't trust him in clutch situations. This is a player, when I talk about, swinging at strikes, that's going to be really important in October. Is there any player in baseball that you trust more to swing at pitches in the zone than Juan Soto? In my opinion, there's not. Juan Soto, if there's one thing he's mastered, it's the ability to, maybe people would describe it as drawing a walk, but he likes to swing at pitches that are opportunistic for him. And he likes to hit those pitches and do damage with those pitches in counts that are favorable. That's a habit that's really good in October. It's actually the polar opposite of the argument I made about Cabrera. Cabrera does the exact opposite. Stylistically, Soto and Cabrera could not be more different, right? And I just think in general, that ability to understand which pitches can I do something with and which ones can I not, I think that's Juan Soto's pedigree, and that will be something that pays off in October. So I'm going to overlook what he's done the past 3 weeks. I know it's been a little inconsistent, but when it gets important again, I think Juan Soto is going to turn it up.
I do as well. The last time he was in the playoffs was against Philly in the NLCS, and he had 2 home runs. So
not a surprise.
Yeah, he can slug for sure away just from the postseason, but he can also slug in the postseason. Has 7 postseason home runs. So I'm going to go with you. I trust Juan Soto. I think it's a no-brainer. I don't care what he did recently. I think guys that, are hot going in, they have an advantage. Doesn't mean it's ironclad. Like, Judge is killing it in September, so he's automatically going to kill it in October. No, but it's a good indicator most of the time. Somebody who's already hitting well, when they move into the next month, they have a head start, right? So, yeah, that's how I see it. And then it comes down to the Giancarlo Stanton is the last one. Where are you on him? Do you trust him?
I believe everyone thinks he's someone who could do something. But you know what? It just feels like I'm at the roulette table, doesn't it? Like you just throw it all on black. He could be really good, hit 3 homers in a series and just win championship series MVP, right? Just for hitting homers. Great. But would it surprise you either to see Giancarlo Stanton go 0 for 14 in a series? And then everyone says, Boone, why is he playing? You could have DH'd this guy or that guy, right? Cabrera could have DH'd. All types of situations. So I'm going to say no. I'm just going to say no. It's been a long time since he's really made a huge impact in October, but I don't know. I just feel like the way he's playing baseball right now, he's not exactly playing a brand of baseball that I think is just going to suddenly translate in October. So I want it to happen desperately, but it just doesn't feel right. So I'm going to say no.
Okay. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
It was tough for me because I don't want to lean so much on his success in the postseason, but he has had success in the postseason. I think that is one of the main reasons for sure. And I can't pretend that it's not. I mean, he's known as a guy, maybe not the last time he was in the postseason, but for the most part, he's known as a guy that steps up in big moments, right? Hits doubles, has the power, all of that. I think when you look at Stanton this year, and what he is, he's really a guy that hits mistake pitches,
Oh,
right?
100%.
He doesn't miss many, right? Well, we're talking about who do you trust as a batter in the postseason. Think about how many teams can't even trust their own pitching. So there are a lot of mistake pitches. And I just don't think, see, Stanton doesn't have to go 2 for 4. If he goes 1 for 4 and hits a 3-run shot or a grand slam, I mean, who's going to care? So
Oh,
that's
nobody.
kind of,
Yeah, he's going to be Ibanez if he does anything.
so I actually do trust him for that. I think he can make pitchers pay on pitches that other batters can't. I think that's as simple as I could put that. And I trust him because of that.
Okay, so you trust that at some point or another in a big situation, you might end up seeing a huge home run from Giancarlo, a 3-run jack, but then you look at his stat line and he hit 200 for the day. He went 1 for 5. That's okay, right?
Absolutely.
But as long as you're slugging, you can hit for a low batting average as long as you are slugging. The ball has a good opportunity to go into the stands when you do swing. But there are players, obviously, who don't. They do both poorly. So Giancarlo, 100%. If he's making strong contact, it's going to be a problem, right? If Giancarlo's hitting in an October series, other teams have an issue. That is a problem. So we're hoping for the best here. We are rooting for it. When I say no, that doesn't mean I want him to play poorly, because obviously the better he plays, the better opportunity Yankees Unloaded is rolling podcasts out in mid to late October. That's a good thing. So we want it to happen, but will I predict that Giancarlo against some of the game's best pitchers right now is going to take great at-bats? I don't know. They make less mistakes. That's what makes them great pitchers. So you mentioned that he's a mistake hitter. Well, they are going to be making less of those. So I don't know. I'm not sold.
All right. So I think that'll wrap that part up. We have the mailbag, and then I'll ask you quick to go through the 5 rotation guys, whether you trust them or you don't trust them.
Okay.
So
roll.
Mailbag from Ed W. It seems like Garrett Cole may be trying to do too much for his team, more like a captain rather than an ace. Like maybe he feels a greater responsibility because he's missed most of the season. Are either of you sensing that? And can anyone get him to just be a savage ace and leave the leadership to others?
You know what's funny about Garrett Cole? Because I understand why people overreact to his demeanor, right?
Mm-hmm.
About being that bulldog, right? Being that Andy Pettitte type personality. But let me say this about Garrett Cole. We don't seem to mind his personality when he pitches well, right?
No.
We just don't. And his personality changes drastically when he's pitching well versus when he's not. And you know what? Garrett Cole predominantly has pitched very well in October baseball, whether he's a Yankee or not. So I understand when you look at another frustrating failure of a start against the Boston Red Sox and Rafael Devers, that's disappointing because it looked like a Doberman just put his tail between its legs. That's what it looked like. And that's hard to accept because we're talking about a mid-September start. And how do we think that he can't handle that situation? But now all of a sudden in a World Series title clinching game, I can trust Garrett Cole's demeanor and toss him the baseball. And that's where I say, yes, you can, because you need to remember, who is he against most other teams that we really have to beat? Who's he against Houston, right? Who's he going to be against the Dodgers? What does he do against those teams? Well, his numbers for his career against most other highly competitive baseball teams, his numbers are dominant. They just are. So I don't want people to, not saying pick on him, because I'm not his big brother. I'm not out here trying to defend the guy. But you need to look at what people do most of the time, not just highly situational and anecdotally. So Garrett Cole, for me, I absolutely trust him in October. I know for a fact this player is going to lock it in. He's going to give us everything he has. I think not only is he going to put in the work and have the demeanor we want, I think he's also going to execute. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Garrett Cole either. I think he has a different type of personality and it doesn't bother me. I don't really get bothered by it unless it's just like the whininess, like the I don't like when like Rodon gets mad about Boone wanting to take him out. I just
Or
think
the
there's a
pitch
level.
calm thing.
Yeah, just stuff like that. I'm just like, so I
Yeah.
trust Garrett Cole. I don't trust Rodon.
Okay.
I do trust Luis Heel to an extent. I do.
Okay.
Because of lately the maturation you started to see, trying to hit the corners more, sacrificing the velocity that he had earlier in the year. I think he's been more of a methodical pitcher. There are people that still believe he's injured and he's pitching through it, and that's why. I think he's deliberately not throwing as hard to basically sacrifice velo for accuracy.
Okay.
So I trust him there. Nestor, I trust. I do. I feel like he got out of his funk. He's in a groove. I think kind of similar to Gleyber. Even though he played, it's a little different. He was part of that double barrel bullpen. I think that lit a fire under Nestor's ass. I think the rest of the year he is going to be a hard out. And then I trust Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt has put up good numbers in high leverage situations. Actually, great numbers in high leverage situations. Phenomenal numbers. So I just ultimately I trust that. I think Clark Schmidt could be your closer. He could start 6 innings. He could strike out 11. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I really think this guy does such a great job of missing bats. He's got such great stuff. I just think it's hard to beat out Clark Schmidt right now. Underrated, one of the best pitchers, I think, that no one talks about. So I absolutely trust Clark Schmidt. I really do.
All right, let me finish this thing out. So I told you I trust Garrett Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, the player that I would trust the most in a game 2 situation is Clark Schmidt. And in large part, it's a player who knows he's going to be around the strike zone. That's something I've got to have in October. If there's one thing we know about October baseball, some guys who refuse to take walks during the regular season, suddenly they're drawing walks and they have 7 or 8 pitch at bats, right? Baseball changes. It is not the same brand of baseball in October than what you even see in September. It is not. I believe Clark Schmidt and the way that he attacks is around the strike zone, and it's something that will translate well in October. I trust him fully. Nestor Cortez, I'm a tweener with, right? And that's more about stuff. Now, of late, Nestor Cortez has proven, hey, I am absolutely going to be in this rotation in October, and he's earned that right. So I trust that he should be there, but whether or not he'll pitch well. Now, let me say this about Heel. Most people think, oh, it's just a matter of if he's on or if he's not, right? Is that stuff dialed back on purpose, or is it because of fatigue? I believe Heel and Aaron Boone's relationship, they're not going to allow Heel to go out there and muck up a game. But the ceiling, right? The ceiling of these games for Luis Heel is high. It just is. The ceiling is that he can show up and dominate anybody. And that's why he's out there. But you know what? Something that's at his disposal in Luis Heel in October, but is not in the regular season, is there's not always a game tomorrow in October. There's not. There's usually days off. There's rest. And the one thing about Luis Heel that we always worry about is Aaron Boone going to pull him in this situation? Is he going to pull him when he's on the ropes? Because that's when Luis Heel gets in trouble. He's on the ropes in the 5th or 6th inning, and then it breaks open, right? The levee breaks. Well, a lot of times the reason you'll see Luis Heel go out there and allow that levee to break is because Aaron Boone doesn't want to burn the bullpen and have nothing for tomorrow. That's something that won't be an issue for Luis Heel. So in a way, I trust Luis Heel. I do. So am I leaving out anybody? Oh, I guess Carlos Rodon. Don't trust him in any way. I don't. I just think the demeanor, he absolutely can do this. He has the physical capabilities. Again, Jake, I feel like this needs to be said just in case someone wants to clip this. I don't know. But I trust that he has the capability to do it. He's done it before. He's pitched well in October. But Carlos Rodon also, a lot of people would describe him as almost a head case. And that could be a good thing sometimes, situationally, to be a head case and to be a little bit of a psycho. The Yankees knew this, bringing him in. But when it's not going well, a head case doesn't necessarily stay the course, right? And sometimes in October baseball, it's a little hard to stay the course. You look at the Yankees' last World Series championship, Andy Pettitte, right, comes out there. He gives up 3 or 4 runs on the road to Philadelphia. Sure enough, Andy Pettitte stays on the mound towards the middle of the game and hits a single to tie a baseball game, drives in Nick Swisher. Who was expecting him to stay the course? That's part of the pedigree of Andy Pettitte and understanding I need to maintain my professionalism and be ready to execute. That's something that I'm not talking about hitting here necessarily, but executing the next play that needs to be executed. That's something that has to happen in October. I don't know if Carlos Rodon has the demeanor to get punched in the jaw in October and get up.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I don't trust Rodon at all.
I love how you said that.
I don't. I mean, I like when he hit. Here's why, actually. I want to talk about this. I thought about this today. Carlos Rodon is a guaranteed home run. He can pitch a gem, but if he gives up a 2-run shot, 2 runs in the postseason, you can win games on.
Oh, you're absolutely right. No, he is absolutely good to get cooked once, which may not in the regular season. It may not matter at all. You may win the game 4-1. He gives up a solo. Who gives a rip? It was 1 bad pitch. Yeah. But how many times do we watch a Carlos Rodon start and we never say, oh yeah, he made that bad pitch in the 6th? Never. There's always that 1 pitch in the 6th inning, which a lot of times, you know who also made that 1 bad pitch in the 6th and 7th inning of his starts in the postseason? Clayton Kershaw. It's always 1 pitch, hanging curveball here, hanging curveball there in one series as opposed to the next. And it would be hit for a 3-run jack. And then all of what happened previously is undone, to your point. So yeah, he is good for 1 bomb. And in the postseason, he's probably good for 2.
Scares me. So yeah, that's going to do it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And also, we got a movie, Knives Out 2. So if you got to this point, put Knives Out 2 or Glass Onion. Either one works. If you got to this point in the video, if you followed all the way through. That's all we got for you guys. So hopefully they continue their winning ways. Tomorrow, the Yankees take on the Seattle Mariners. The game's going to be on at 9:40. So that's your time.
Oh, gosh, dang it. 9:40 a.m. my time?
No. Like 9:40. Like it's gonna be on the West Coast is what I mean. It's in Seattle.
Oh, thank God. Okay. You scared me because I thought I was going to miss the first 3 innings. I am not waking up for that. Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. So that's good. Everyone else hates, you realize everybody hates West Coast baseball because they're ready for bed. I'm like, you guys want to go to bed? I don't. I know Jake does. He never sleeps, so he doesn't want to go to bed. But yeah, good news. 9:40 game. I will be there.
Yeah. Luis Heel versus Brian Wu.
Every arm they've got is the real deal. Let's just call it for what it is.
Well, Brian Wu, last time he played against the Yankees looks like May 21st. He went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, and only gave up 2 hits.
Yeah. So that doesn't bode well for us. But I will say this: we're playing postseason baseball. This is postseason baseball right now. Let's do it. I don't give a rip what happened before. Go do it.
I agree. And who is Baltimore even playing anybody?
I don't know. They just lost to Detroit, so
they are playing. Okay, so they have an off day. And then they got to go up against Blake Snell with the Giants.
Okay.
No game is easy for Baltimore. So.
No, it's not. Everyone's freaking out about the Yankees, and meanwhile, the Baltimore Orioles, they can't beat Detroit, which I know Detroit is somewhat formidable, but they're a 500 baseball team. So
yeah,
we don't need to freak out about the Yankees. Everybody else has huge flaws as well. We've got flaws. We just have to hope that we have less flaws than everybody else. So I guess we're going to find out very soon.
That sounds good. Well, type in Glass Onion or Knives Out 2 if you stayed to the end of this video.
And like this video.